Let's go ahead and get started then. Calling the meeting to order. Okay, first we have roll call.
Ms. Hedlund?
Present.
Mr. Jacobson is excused. Ms. Makovsky? Mr. Morrison?
Here.
Mr. Patterson?
Here.
Ms. Salmon?
Here.
Ms. Waller?
Okay. I don't believe there are any changes to the agenda. Next, we want to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Did anybody have any comments or questions? Okay. Oh, there's Alana. Okay. I did want to mention on the notes for the previous meeting, it says in number 8 that we passed around 2 thank you cards, and we should probably say what those were for. So that's for previous commission members or former commission members.
I actually ran into one of them at an event on campus, and it was right after that, so I was able to reinforce it on behalf of all of us as
Oh,
well.
well, thank you.
Timing worked out really well.
Okay, and since we have no public input, let's go ahead and have a grant presentation from Kelly White from 40 North.
Welcome, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Do I have to get close to this, or is this good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, thank you all for having me. I know that I'm the only one today, and you guys have got a lot of stuff scheduled, so I'll get to it. So I'm going to present on the Boneyard Arts Festival 2015. It's kind of weird to think about this now because, of course, we're right in the middle of planning for 2016. But we got a festival grant from the Urbana Public Arts Commission. And so I just wanted to show you a few things. Obviously, a lot of the grant money goes towards marketing the event in Urbana, and that involves, obviously, billboards as well as printed materials. What's great about Boneyard, which I'm sure you guys are all very familiar, is every year we pick a signature artist who has a signature image that then gets utilized on all the different marketing deliverables, and it's a lot of fun. It hasn't been done every single year of Boneyard, but at least probably the last 10 years we've done it. And it's just been a fantastic way to kind of create the look every year of Boneyard. And this one happens to be a watercolor image called Pop by Kelly Eddington, who's also, I believe, been featured on Murals on Glass before. So, And then, of course, you have the printed materials. We do tons and tons of posters. We do postcards that we mail home. And then the big change this year was we actually we designed a new, smaller version of the Boneyard map, and we called it the Boneyard Quick Guide. The News-Gazette actually dropped out as a sponsor for the first time in a long, long time, which I think they've done with several different sponsorships. It wasn't just us, but so we no longer had the insert, and so what we decided to do, and it was getting a little gigantic, if anybody remembers. It was starting to be kind of a massive thing to deal with. So we thought people probably wanted to have something a little bit more mobile to carry around, and so we created this smaller guide. Has all the information in it, but just in kind of a more concise fashion. And we also mailed all those home, as well as provided them to all the different venues, and then just general distribution around the community. No app. It was all on the website. That's in the future, Barbara. I would love to have an app. Wouldn't that be great? And then, of course, there's some of the Boneyard guides. Partnerships are key for the Boneyard. It wouldn't be anything without all the partnerships we have. And as well as the City of Urbana, the UBA is critical. They help host the Boneyard Connect events. They created this huge banner, which has been fantastic as far as marketing and promotion. They just change the date out every single year, and it goes up there right below the Murals on Glass Lincoln, and it's just a perfect spot for the whole community to get reminded that the event is coming up. Another partner that we love to work with is the Urbana Park District. This happens to be the kids event that they did inside Lincoln Square for the last Boneyard. It was their children's imagination station. It was very popular. It got a little crowded, a little crazy. You can see there were lots and lots of kids in line waiting to make crafts, and they'll be doing that again this year. They do a great job every year providing that right inside Lincoln Square for families and kids to use. And then, of course, we collaborated a lot with Pauline and the Urbana Public Arts Commission, and this one was a huge, fantastic success, which was the first time we really did a lot of programming, and Pauline was fantastic with organizing all of this in the new Boneyard area. If anybody could just hope for this same exact weather this year, that would be perfect, because it was gorgeous out there. So you can see that we had the Bodacious String Band, there's face painting, button making. We had the very, very popular Bubble Guy that the kids absolutely love. Food trucks were out there. The space was just gorgeous. And I think it could just get bigger and better every year, because it's just a fantastic spot for this kind of stuff. And then a few other ways that some of your programs were also highlighted, which was great, was that we had some of the Urbana grants, such as this one, like Jess Byler's show there. She received a public arts grant to put that show up. It was fantastic. She did a beautiful job, and now that space, I believe, is being utilized to hold different artwork. And then, of course, the Urbana Raises Your Art. I think those were displayed right before Boneyard, so it was a great way for people to kind of walk around and see all the different art on the banners. And then, of course, the Artists of the Corridor, which I say you have Travis now, but I think at the time of the Boneyard, it was some really cool Wiley Elementary students doing fashion design or costume design, which was fantastic. And then, of course, we also used the grant money to assist in putting some other programming outside, some performances, just to kind of help with the vibe and the excitement as people go from venue to venue. Here was just a couple examples. We had Amira Davis. They were doing some African vocals and drumming right there, I believe, in front of Crane Alley. And then a little later in the afternoon, we had Katie Flynn doing cabaret and jazz across the street a little later in the day, which was fantastic. It really helps people kind of, as they're walking around, kind of feel the vibe of Boneyard. So as they go from venue to venue, they kind of stop for some entertainment. One of the, kind of highlight some interesting new ones. This was a brand new venue, was the Pale Gray Labs. It was interesting. Nina had come to the Boneyard Connect to connect with the venue, and as we were all talking at the event, I went over to her after she'd been chatting with a bunch of people, and I said, "Did you find your venue?" And she goes, "Yeah, it's going to be us. We're going to be our venue." So they decided, why not? They're right there in a really good area. So they just opened up their lab, and it was very popular for people to watch that giant quilting robot. They were kind of obsessed to be able to go in and be able to check that out. And then the thing on the right, I just loved it. It was the first time ever someone had made a promotional Boneyard poster that was a quilt. And that was just hanging in a cafe, and they were all over the place, and it was so cool that they actually quilted their promo posters. And then, of course, there's always a popular aspect of Boneyard is all the demos. We love the demos. So you have Connie Erickson. She's got that great studio above the Courier, and she was painting all day. An artist painting in the UBA, CU Potters Club. They were right outside in the beautiful sunshine, demoing all of their work. So it adds a really nice, extra vibrant aspect when they actually have the artist right there demoing. The crowds really love that. And then finally, which was a really fun surprise, which they're planning again this year, which was fantastic. I'd never quite seen that many people in Lincoln Square at the same time. It was pretty fantastic. Basically, all the Urbana Public School District 116 kids, and they did this gigantic flash mob that happened in Lincoln Square. And then after that, they kind of regrouped outside the courtyard and did another huge dance out there. And it was just fantastic to see all the kids, and of course all the parents came to watch them. And I don't know how many weeks they planned all that, but to have that many kids from that many schools all come together for that was great. And for them to choose to do it during Boneyard was just perfect. So we'll look forward to that happening again. And then lastly, I just wanted to express huge thanks, not only for the grant that we get, but all the grants you guys give, because as the Arts Council, those kind of opportunities are critical. And when I see some of these amazing things that people do, I mean, it's only possible because you all do that. They wouldn't be able to do it. They wouldn't have the funding. So they have the ideas, they have the imagination, they have the creativity. The only thing they really need is the funding. And so I can't thank you all enough for providing that. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for saying that about the grants. I've always felt that way myself. And
That's why we all serve.
yeah. So thanks very much. And of course, we appreciate immensely all the work you do, 40 North does on the Boneyard, and especially bring it to Urbana. Does anybody want to say
Throughout the
anything?
region, it's not, You are in the other city, but we, no, we play in the same sandbox.
Yes.
But I think that's what is nice about what you do, Kelly, is that you do combine, you treat it
Yeah.
as one entity. And I
Exactly.
think that is so important when we're talking about the arts.
Absolutely.
Yes, we're Champaign County. It's the whole deal.
Yeah,
Right.
We all live
absolutely.
here,
Yes,
Yep.
exactly.
and we interact here.
Yes.
We really do.
Anyone else want to make comments, or?
Not to put Kelly on the spot as I could, but I remember 40 North before Kelly was in charge, and it was kind of confusing of exactly its entity and what it did. And when I think you started working before you had your where you're at now, and that's when I got to know Kelly. And I have to say, as soon as she took over, it's been really wonderful, and we're really lucky. And it's specifically because of you.
Thank you.
I think.
That means huge thanks to me, Jason. Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I can't say enough to where I hope people really realize what you do and how unique the whole county is because of your work.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
And is it too soon to maybe ask you to talk a little bit about 40.1?
No, I can talk about that.
Yes, I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's been exciting for us because, of course, the entity we've always been, we've never really had a kind of a bricks and mortar kind of space in order to highlight local art. So Mike Hosier, who is the owner of several things, he has, I think, the building down there next to the Boneyard, and he also owns Champaign Telephone Company, and they had Verizon Wireless move out. And of course, most business people would be like, okay, that company's moving out, I'm going to have another company move in. But not Mike Hosier. He decided, you know what would look good out there is some art. And so he called us up and said, would you guys be able to utilize some walls and kind of create a gallery out there? And we came and walked around, and I said, yes, please, because we don't have enough space for art, never enough. And so he had all the retail slats removed, and he had it professionally painted. And we actually just had the first event there, our CSA pickup event there last week, and I think people were quite surprised about how much it felt like a gallery because, we put the art up and the labels, and you'd agree, right, Pauline? It looks very much
It
like
looks really great.
yeah, so it's fantastic, and we'll be doing a juried show there during Boneyard as well. So it's just a really great way for us to be able to, give some more opportunities to artists and highlight some people, and just because we've never had that chance before. We take the art out to the people, but now it's going to be kind of nice to be able to bring some people in to see some art. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Great.
We're thrilled.
Great, very good. Okay, well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll have our monthly progress report. Oh, my God. No, we didn't. We got
Just had
sidetracked.
that thought.
I'm not sure what happened. Okay, so I'm going to start the staff presentation by talking about the grants program. So I've been receiving a few applications. I think we're going to get a lot of applicants this year, partly because we have Facebook ads now, so I think that's reaching way more people than we have before. We had 2 workshops, community workshops, where I talked to community members about this opportunity and taught them a little bit about grant writing. So we had 2 of those, one at the IMC and one at the School of Art and Design at the university. And we are going to review the applications. The jury is going to review the applications on February 27th and March 5th. Artists Out of the Corridor, we still have Travis' work outside in the lobby, and we posted also a preview of this exhibition thanks to UPTV, so if you want to watch it, I think it was posted on Facebook and Twitter, and it's on YouTube. And we are having Peggy Flavin, who's a university student, display her art here starting early March. And we're still scheduling things, but it seems that the reception will be on March 11th, so I'll send you more information when it's confirmed. And as Kelly mentioned, last year we collaborated with 40 North and had this event at the Boneyard Creek Improvements Project. Here are just a few pictures from that event. We're going to repeat this year, and I've already invited the teachers at the local school district to submit more artworks for the banners. So we're hoping to put that up around March, and we'll also have music and arts activities. Art at the Market starts in May, and it will run through October instead of September this year. So I put up this poster, and we're accepting applications for the season. Deadline is February 15th. So if you know any musicians or art teachers or artists who would like to instruct, just a day of arts activities, let them know about this opportunity. And I think I sent all of you the link to the Stranger Reduction Zone survey. If you haven't filled it out, feel free to do that. I will take this down around the end of the month. So far, we only have 35 submissions, but I'm expecting hopefully many more. And so far, about 70% wants us to keep it, if you're curious. I posted about the new episode of Art Now. I think, emailed you about it. It's a bit different this time. It's 15 minutes long, and it's documentary style. So if you haven't let me know what you think about it, feel free to send me an email and share with me your thoughts. It's a new style, and I think it's working pretty well. And I talked to Jason, and he thinks it works well for him too, because we thought it would be so much more work, but turns out that's not really the case. And lastly, for marketing, we're still growing in Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we now have 3 ads on Smile Politely. I said 2 ads in the report, but we have 1 more since. So the bottom one is for Art Now. And I think I'm going to start doing this for every Art Now episode so that more people know about this. Okay, and that's all for me. So shall we move upstairs?
I was just reminded, we
Oh,
did
yes.
not actually vote for the approval of the minutes.
Oh,
So
okay.
we need to quickly do that.
Sure, sure.
Okay. All in favor of approving minutes with the change I suggested? Okay. Okay. We've approved.
Do we have time to talk about the formats at all? I
Art
know we have
Now?
a lot to do.
Yeah, maybe if it's just quickly.
Anybody have any thoughts about? Or we gotta do it upstairs instead? Okay.
Yeah, I guess we can touch on that in our discussion.
All right, well, now we're going to adjourn for our annual, not adjourn, but we're going to start our annual planning session.
Yes.
Yep.
So since all the commissioners are here, I'm just going to kind of go over what we're trying to accomplish and how we're going to accomplish it. So Pauline set out a list of questions that are in front of you and would have been included in your packet. The intention here is to do a deep dive on the mission. And because we're limited on time, we're going to move the meeting quickly. We're going to ask you to, pipe up, give your comments. I'm going to try to keep us on track, so I might ask you to turn the floor over to another commissioner who hasn't had a chance to give feedback. And also, you'll have the opportunity to write down your thoughts on any of the topics that we come up. So our goal is really to just generate as much of your ideas as we possibly can during this time. And then Pauline is going to take all that and, during the week, then she'll synthesize it and send you back information based on what all you've said today. So we probably won't be able to go through a consensus building kind of process given the time that we have. So really we're more of a brainstorm mode. But we are going to build in times for discussion.
Can I
Yeah.
add something?
Mhm.
And you may find this sheet in your pile. It's called At-Large Idea Parking Lot. So if there's anything more specific that we don't get to touch on today, you can write it down there. And then after my follow-up email, you can let me know your additional thoughts.
And you'll notice in that packet, the parking lot packet also has all of our public arts programs are in there too. We aren't going to be able to do justice to the mission if we try to do the programs too. So really, this is a place for any ideas that you have while we're talking about the broader scope and mission of the commission. If you have a specific idea about a program that comes up, go ahead and jot it down. What's going to happen then within the next week is that Pauline's going to send out a survey to you that allows you to give comment on every single program that we have. So we won't be deep diving on programs this time. I think we've done a good job of that in previous years. But if issues come up, then we can put that on a future commission agenda. But today we really want to focus on the mission of the commission and how you as a group really see what the goals and focus of the commission and the arts program on a broad level. So we're going to spend about 45 minutes on that. And then we will also then try to talk about what is the Public Arts Commission in the context of the other arts organizations. And we kind of had a nice lead up to that with Kelly, 40 North. So any questions before we get started? Okay, so just a reminder too, the small pieces of paper are there for you to write on as we move through this presentation. And we will collect those, and we have, is it on this sheet?
Yeah.
We'll have, Morgan will help us attach all of your comments pertaining to each question up there. Tape ready, I guess. So, we'll start with the mission itself. This is from the enabling ordinance that established the commission to foster a city where all residents, emerging artists, established artists, and non-artists alike can engage in the arts and where artists can thrive and feel valued. So we really focused on to foster, can you go back real quick? To foster a city where all residents can engage in the arts and where artists can feel thrived and valued. So we're going to focus on 3 aspects of the mission to discuss today. The first is all residents. So if you could go ahead and pull out your small sheet, has that first question on it, is what do we mean by all residents? I mean, we just want to take about 1 minute for you to write down some thoughts on that. One obvious thing is that we really can't reach all residents. So what do you think, what should the commission value or try for in terms of reaching all residents? So just write down any thoughts you might have on that. And we'll follow up with 2 other questions about on all residents. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the next question, which is who are we reaching in terms of the public arts? The commission and the programs. Who are we reaching? Who are we doing a good job reaching? Who aren't we reaching? Who are we not doing a good job reaching?
Are we getting some feedback from the city in regards to these questions?
No, not at this
Just-
time. This is really just a mission exploration, but it might lead to a desire to, at a subsequent commission meeting, we might want to.
So we may not know who all we're not reaching.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, I think we know who we're reaching from our reports, but I suppose maybe we need to dig deeper. Maybe I'll write that down.
Well, this is really just your accumulation of experience having been on a commission. How do you see it? What's your gut tell you? And we're going to put the third question up, which is how can we be more inviting and accessible? It's really a follow-up to maybe who are we not reaching? Or how can we do a better job of doing the things we do well too? I mean, it doesn't have to be a comment on a weakness. So feel free to keep writing, feel free to add to those sheets as we start talking, or change things, or strike things out if you change your mind on what you wrote. Let's just have a short discussion on this. We're gonna have about 7 minutes of discussion. That means about 1 minute per commissioner. And there's doesn't need to be any structure to it, but would anyone like to share, maybe we start here at the top. What thoughts did you have about what do we mean by all residents in our mission statement?
Well, all ages, lots of international people living in Urbana, and lots of, a variety of neighborhoods in Urbana. So hopefully we're reading, that's what I would think we're reading.
Anyone else?
I think it's just anybody who is interested in the arts. Like, I think that's what we should, to me, that would be the best way of looking at it is if you are interested in arts, we're gonna do the best to outreach to you and find out ways to do that instead of trying to pick individual groups, or not individuals, but groups of people. Just make it so if somebody thinks art, it's inevitable that they'll come across us.
I agree with that. And also at the same time, one of the things that we do is to introduce art forms to people who are not yet familiar with it or who otherwise don't have access to it. So I wrote down maybe a large group of people that reflects our community in diversity and like age groups and other factors.
How about you, John?
We just said basically everyone that might be interested in order to reach that audience, we would need to use as wide a net as possible. I wrote down a multi-armed approach. I think it's pretty clear in today's world. Of course, budget has a lot to do with a multi-pronged attack, but I think it would be a mistake today to use or rely on any one method rather than different ways of reaching people, including social media, which we've already been doing recently thanks to Pauline's efforts.
And then let's also reach into that. Who are we reaching? Who are we not reaching as well? It's kind of been implied in some of the comments so far. Barbara, you were about to speak.
Oh, I was just going to add to what John said, basically, because we are trying new things all the time and trying to improve on our outreach efforts. There's also a limit to the staff size and what is reasonable. Not that I don't think I do think you're Superwoman, but I mean, I think you can get a lot done and very effectively. Thinking within those, but not being bound by limitations either, in case we can stretch the boundaries to improve our goals.
Well, I think the most important thing, and Pauline, again, I think has done a good job recently with that, and things have changed than just a few years ago, and I think that's why a meeting like this and any kind of evaluation is important in terms of maybe evaluating how things have changed and being able to look down the road and maybe even anticipate not only what's going on now, but what might be coming 6 months from now or a year, so we can see where maybe we should be.
Assessing the city itself, which is ever changing.
Alona, we haven't heard from you. What do you think about some of these questions? What
Well,
came to your mind?
to my mind, we have been so far very strongly focusing on emerging artists to the detriment of, say, established artists. I feel that we are not really reaching out to professionals, and those include people at the university, but also outside of the university. I don't think we have a good connection to professionals at the university level at all. They sort of are invisible. Or professional artists, by which I mean they live from their art. So we are, I feel we are on the periphery all the time. Too much emphasis on emerging artists. Not that they don't need a lot of help, they do a lot of help, but I think that's not the only thing that we should be paying attention.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of resources in this area. You just have to tap them.
How about you,
To just comment on that, though, I think a lot of the artists who are professional here actually are showing their works in larger cities, not necessarily here. Jason?
Well, and I think, but I.
I saw you nodding.
Well, I agree, both of you I think both of you are right. Her point, I think, is actually more interesting because it's something that I think you just assume, I think the assumption is what you're saying, which is 9 times out of 10 true. But again, I mean, we do have some pretty big artists that do live here that, you know,
Oh, yeah,
we could just
definitely.
ask them and they may actually be like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do a thing or something.
Sure.
So it's a great thing to kind of brainstorm on and think
Yeah.
about. I mean, Lori Hogan, who teaches at the U of I, is internationally massive, and I mean Patrick Hammy is really good, and so there are people that it wouldn't hurt, and Deke Weaver, of course, who is now
Right,
working
right.
with the city on things. So it's a good idea to keep in mind, I think.
Okay.
What about that last question? Is there anything that the commission and the program should be doing to be more inviting and accessible to existing artists?
I think we do a pretty good job. I mean, I don't think that.
I think we do have initiatives that often feature established artists. For instance, Art Now. Art Now features a lot of really good artists. Kevin Hamilton, Glenn Davies, and a lot of other well-known names. I think the problem is that we need to keep improving our promotional efforts, just so they know more about it.
Well, that's always been a problem. I mean,
Yeah.
up until you came along.
Yes.
The branding is important, so the
Yeah. I
community
agree.
begins to recognize.
Yeah, and I think that's
Right
something
here.
that I would really like to work on, especially this next fiscal year. I just look at this old ad that I posted on Smile Polite, and I realized how terrible it was. I think I am improving as well as I go along, so hopefully better ads from now on, and hopefully more people know about these initiatives that are available to them.
So that's a good segue into the sort of the follow-up question is, looking forward, what are the kinds of things you think that staff should be doing, that the commission should be doing? You should have a sheet for this as well. And if you can just take a minute just to write a little bit, think, about a minute it will take, just from this discussion or for your own thoughts, what kinds of things have kind of come to mind. And then we'll take about 3 more minutes and just explore that some more. Pat, you want to start off?
I was going to say, we might want to make an effort to have some of our events or activities outside of the downtown area. I think it's one way you might bring in people who don't normally, I mean, people who already know about the arts hear about the things in downtown and they go there, but if you want to get more people involved and interested, you might want to have some things that are not just from downtown. So,
So looking at events outside of the downtown area.
yeah.
Other thoughts or elaborating on that? Jenny, what did you write down?
Well, I don't think it applies to this. It's more publicity promoting.
Well, that's okay.
It seems like we should have a direct line to Melissa Murley.
Uh,
Because she talks about what goes on in the arts all over town and
Right.
everything, and just say, this is going on this week, almost every week, what is the Urbana Public Arts doing this week? Whether it's Art Now, or it's this show, or on the murals, or the corridor art, all of that sort of stuff. Just a routine kind of thing.
Yeah. And she is a recipient of all of our news releases. So sometimes we
maybe need to take
email
her
back
out
and
to
forth.
lunch or something.
Do we reach out onto the campus papers too? The DI?
Yes, I have someone on DI, also on my news release list and someone and smile politely and
Well, the next question is about how we engage. So I think we'll have more opportunity to talk about specific forms of engagement. Is there any other aspect, study, deeper, do you have more questions maybe based on some of the things we've talked about that staff should be looking into or that the commission should spend time discussing in the future? Is this question of established artists versus emerging artists something we need to track or pay more attention to?
For me, I think, I mean, imagine, of course, there are some things the staff could be doing better, but as far as my knowledge of what you guys do, I'm more than impressed. I mean, sometimes it's just there are limited things you can do in specific communities, and so far what I've seen, you guys are doing what I would do, if not more.
My question would be, what is the commission's members' roles? Like, would you like us to go talk to the Rotaries or the Kiwanis or those kind of things? Is that maybe organizations that we belong to or something like that? Is there some kind of a format or something that we could do that would promote it?
I think that would be really helpful, especially organizations that we have never worked with, so someone I have no contact in. As an example, recently I was connected by Commissioner, I guess, Pat. Very sorry to put you in the spotlight, but she introduced me to someone from Clark Lindsay. We got talking, and then we ended up planning a sculpture tour for the residents. To me, it's really helpful to collaborate because it's a one staff member program, and building relationships can take a long time. A lot of coffee meetings. So if you do know someone that would be helpful for me to know, please let me know and we can set up.
And the connection with the Literacy Festival and the
They'll be
event that's
really
coming
great.
up in the fall that we talked about the other day.
Yes.
I had the opportunity to have an outreach event with one of our awardees who has, since we're planning some events, and I'm trying to convince them, of course, to bring their events into Urbana, but the Literacy Festival that happens biannually, which is in Champaign, the person who coordinates it, I'm working on her. I'm hoping by the next time we have that meeting comes around, it's going to be in Urbana.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that a role that other commission members would be interested in maybe talking about or developing more, those kinds of outreach aspects?
Yeah.
So at this point, we're going to move on to the next question. So if you want to pass forward the questions that you've already answered, Morgan and I will attach them to the sheet. We'll do our best.
Would they turn the air conditioning on?
And the next question is engage in the arts. So we talked about we're fostering a city where all residents engage in the arts. So we want to explore a little what do we mean by engage in the arts? What does that mean to you as a commissioner? What do you think the program should be doing to engage in the arts? Engage the audiences that we just discussed. How should we be engaging them? Is it styles of art? Is it promotional? Or is it actually participating in art? Or an artist? A professional artist? What kinds of engagement? So then I'm going to add the next question. What are some of the art forms found in our community that are well represented? What are some that are not? And then also, what are some of the art forms that the program does a good job of engaging or not? Or even as commissioners, how do you feel engaged? Are there some art forms that through your role in the commission you feel you get well engaged with or not? So then the next question, last question for this is the question of building communities versus audiences. What are the differences between those two activities? Which do you think we should emphasize? Do we want people to passively engage with art? Do we want them to actively engage with art? Do we want to build communities of artists? What's our emphasis? So would anyone like to have a good thought, want to share with the group? On any of the questions?
What do you mean by building communities of artists? Putting the artists together that are all interested in the same type of art? Are you talking about the artists themselves?
Well, we posed it as a question to kind of get folks thinking.
Yeah.
Pauline thought that was an interesting question of what the commission might comment on what are the goals of the programs.
Yeah, I think
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that it is a good thing, because it is a little ambiguous, but I think that that's good to think about. My opinion is that it's more of an organic thing. Like you said, it's like, if we're doing what we're doing right, and things are going, both of these things will be positive. So
Yes.
it's really something that as long as, like, we shouldn't focus on just one thing. Like, we shouldn't just try to make these artist communities or just try to entertain people. But if we're doing things right, they'll both be beneficial. And I think that's how it should be looked at.
Yeah.
That's what I wrote
Right.
down, both.
Right.
Me too.
It's holistic, yeah, it feeds,
Yeah.
one feeds the other.
Right.
And also, we have a lot of events, I think, that appeal to the larger community, and that's really great because it introduces them to what we do and what they can enjoy in this community. But at the same time, I think as a public arts program, I think we should not just focus on looking for attendees or like a long time consistent subscribers. We need to seek participation from the larger community, if that makes sense. So I feel like a lot of the events that we have, when I organize them, I see the same faces over and over again sometimes. And the attendance is good, but I would like to see new faces and different groups represented.
That happens at concerts too. If you don't
Yeah.
create new venues or new programs or things that bring people in.
Mm-hmm.
It was mentioned before, we have a very diverse community. Are there ways that we could be reaching out better to some of those groups? Immigrant communities where there might be language barriers, student groups that might be insulated from our community because there's so much going on on campus.
I think going after students could be something I have a good feeling that could work, because I think if anything, the reason why they might not interact with the Arts Commission as much because they just don't understand it. And if they really understood it and were really encouraged, there's a good handful of them that I know would take advantage. I mean, working at Art Group, we see we get a lot of them coming through, and you can tell the ones that would really be engaged in this if they understood it. And I know there are some that do now because of you guys going over there, and I know that some grad students and some professors have told the students about it and stuff.
Good.
I have.
Alona, we haven't heard from you. What do you think?
I don't think I have any real significant comment on this.
Okay. Who else? John, have we heard from you this round?
What was that?
Would you like to
Thoughts?
share some thoughts?
We're talking about the communities versus audiences
Or
question?
just any of those engagement in the arts questions that were just brought up? Any thoughts you had?
Well, our arts grants are certainly at the head of our list, and they reach out to a variety of things. I mean, I had children's art programs, and I think the grants touch on a number of those. Art fairs, I mean, we had, I think, a very good example of that recently, and seemed to be very well received. I mean, I think keeping an activity like that going, maybe even extending it, or maybe changing the focus to maybe sculpture rather than two-dimensional, or trying to encourage more of both of those together. Sculpture I mean, we have the outdoor sculpture going on a more professional level, but if there might be some way to encourage more local artists in terms of that.
Any other thoughts?
Well, I certainly see it. I go into schools every week, several times a week, doing musical programs. And I was in a program at the International Prep Academy yesterday where kids have never been exposed to live music. They're the children of mostly Spanish communities, and some of their parents actually have escaped across the border. And you realize that when you see the eyes start to open up with these kids and they see this for the first time, I think we can make a positive effect with all the things that we're doing.
So then let's transition to what kinds of initiatives should the staff and the commission be focused on? Maybe new questions or new initiatives. If you'd like to just take a moment to write, welcome to. I guess you have different sheets for staff and commission if you have.
Oh.
I didn't realize that, sorry. If you write it all on one, we'll get it off there. All right, who'd like to share?
Well, I just said, obviously, all of us, I think, just keeping our collective eyes open for opportunities to merge or join other groups engaged in similar activities to us. Again, the perfect lead-in was 40 North today, and what a great job they've been doing. And maybe there's smaller groups out there that will come up in the future that we're not even aware of right now, and just kind of keep our eyes on the horizon for opportunities.
Jimmy, did you have something?
Nothing new, actually.
Okay.
although we do have an artist here, it would be interesting to see what Jason thinks about building engagement with the community and with
Well,
other artists. Do you have a,
I mean,
from an artist point of view?
before I joined the commission, I was aware of it, and I think that, and I remember thinking like it was obvious that there was an outreach, because how I first heard about it was the giving the grant writing tutorial, that really impressed me, and I was like, oh, this is serious, and just the uniqueness of having money coming from a city for artists is unique. So I think, I mean, I have a pretty vivid memory of before I was on the commission thinking that the awareness was there. I mean, I couldn't think of anything more that you could do except just, continuing it and doing it as much as you can.
How did you first hear about the grant writing?
I think other artists told me about the grant writing meeting, and I probably saw a Facebook thing or something. Yeah, I feel like I heard it from more than one source, but it was a word of mouth.
Interesting.
Pat, what do you think?
I don't know that I have anything new to add to that. I mean, I think probably commissioners could, another thing that I had once, some years ago, asked us to do is just do a presentation to people at OLLI, because obviously those are people who are interested in the arts. And we did do that once, but we haven't done it since, and that would be a good opportunity, because they have one-shot things like that, where you can come in and just talk about your organization. As you were suggesting, maybe just going to different groups that all of us are already affiliated with, and asking them if they'd like some more information about us. So.
Always a good idea.
I think previously I felt that there was a lack of staff bringing some of the programs together with local places where performance could take place. And in the Royer subcommission, we suggested dinner theater performances at the Lincoln Hotel. But the staff never went out to talk about any of that, and that was before you came here. So that never went anywhere. We had all kinds of, at least 5 or 6 other ideas for art performances at the hotel. None of it came through, and I feel that it was really because of lack from the staff's part, on the staff's part, to go and talk and try to bring artists and space owner together. There was also, as I know, 1 or 2 times when some pretty big local tango group used the hotel, the large room of the hotel, restaurant part of the hotel, for dance, and they really loved it. But for whatever reason, the whole thing fell apart. I think the hotel is an excellent space, and I know there are problems right now with the ownership, etc. But I still believe that it would pay off to pay more attention to this opportunity and work on making art venues happen there, because whoever goes there, artists and audiences, love the space. They think it's unique, it's excellent for the arts, and I think it would be very, very, very good to open conversation with the owner. And there are other buildings which we suggested as members of the Royer Subcommittee formerly in downtown Urbana that could be used. So I think we need to outreach to people who can supply spaces for us and bring the artists and them together. Instead of just thinking that it will happen, somehow it will happen. It doesn't. It really doesn't, and even if it does, it falls apart. So there has to be something more serious about that.
Yeah, we did use the theater at one time for an event, for a concert event, and people were very, very interested in it. They were curious about the space. And I agree with you about the hotel. I think it's a lost resource that still has potential, but it just needs to be tapped in different ways than it has lately. Even if it's an artist corridor or like the Literacy Festival, I suggested they try to bring it to Urbana and do it at the hotel because they would have vendors and they would have lots of exhibit space and people coming through. If people get the sense of the hotel and that whole area is a place to come to, then it'll make the job easier.
I'm going to need to keep things moving, but your comments are noted. The third portion of the mission is that artists can thrive and feel valued. So again, if you could take some time to comment on the question of what do we mean by that statement? Artists can thrive and feel valued. And actually, if you want to pass up the ones from the last question, please do so. Again, if you had other things to add as you talk, please make those additional comments.
You want these turned in?
Yeah. Thank you.
And I'm going to put up the second question. What is the arts program doing to make artists feel valued? How are we not making artists feel valued? Or where could we be making artists feel valued? Or helping them thrive? And the last question, actually there's two more on this one. How are we helping artists thrive? How are we not? Maybe that's, so the thrive, valued and thrive are the two key terms in the mission statement. And then lastly, how can we make ourselves useful resources for artists? So just take another minute. Write down any comments you have.
It's getting warm in here. Does it feel like the heat came on? Or is it just me?
They turned the air conditioning off.
Oh, that's what it is. That's why. Suddenly it's like, oh.
We were having such a good conversation. It's
It
got
got
blood flowing.
They're gonna pipe oxygen in here
Yeah.
to us.
So, Jenny's first on it.
Okay. Well, how do we make them thrive and feel valued by recognizing them? How do we make them thrive and how do we not? I think all the people that I've interviewed for Art Now love being invited to do that and recognized. That's a recognition, you know. And same thing with the Artists of the Corridor. To be asked to put their paintings up there, that's great. The grants programs, another way that they're being recognized and valued. And like the schools, all those are grants in the schools that kids know now, learn so much more. But the last one that talked at our meeting, the puppet lady, wow, she felt valued, that we had recognized her, and then she was able to promote her program in the schools and get the recognition from the schools and everything. So I think that the program does a lot of encouraging the artists to thrive, and that we value them, from the ones that we touch. Now, the question is, how do we reach the ones that we haven't touched, of course, but I think that's one way we do it here. And the Art at the Market is another one that shows off all the artists, and whether they're, whatever kind of art they are, music, drawing, painting, dancing, it all is so wonderful that there's such a variety of that at Art at the Market, too, that really exposes all the different kinds of arts.
And I appreciate that Art at the Market compensates the artists in a fair way. Because I think a lot of organizations sometimes ask artists to perform or to teach with very little compensation, and I think direct support means a lot to them.
So there's one question I was going to ask the people I'd interviewed, and I didn't get a chance to do it timely, but did any of them, speaking of thriving, let's say making money, have any of them received any recognition from what the Arts Commission has done? Did anybody come and say, "Ooh, I'd like to have you do a commission for me," or something like that? I don't know if we've ever followed
Yeah,
up.
Suzanne Leckel did, yeah.
Who did?
Follow up.
Suzanne Leckel.
Oh, did she? Okay,
Afterwards.
yeah.
Yeah.
And same with the art expo. I think some people got commissions.
Oh, yeah, the art fair was really good for that. A lot
Right.
of people were,
That's right, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it really connected people.
That's great. That's perfect, yeah.
And so you didn't get to it. Next, this year.
This coming
This year.
I think sometimes I'm too busy handling the day-to-day that I don't have much time to have conversations with artists to actually ask them what would you like to see happening. I think that's really important, just to stay updated on the current needs. And many of you are really connected with the artists, so I find that sometimes the needs are actually very basic. They want more people to attend their performances, and that's something that even we ourselves can do. Maybe we can be more informed. I can help with that. We can, inform each other on what's happening in the community, and if there's something big that's happening, like a major festival, I think maybe at least one of us should be there. And I like to go anyway, so I go all the time. But if I can't, maybe someone can represent the commission and even introduce yourself to the organizer and get connected that way.
To that end, have we ever fielded like a portable information kiosk or anything that
Yes.
that could and should go up at some of these events,
We have-
whether they're manned or not? I mean, it would be great if it would be manned, but
Yeah, we do some of that. I mean, we have a lot of marketing materials. So with some local events, we always have some sort of booth or just place where we can put up the materials. Definitely sweet corn, definitely
Right.
C4A's with
larger
sweet mash.
events.
Larger
Yeah.
events.
And maybe one of the flyers could solicit opinions and give them an email where they could.
Yeah, a sign-up sheet.
Right, exactly.
Other thoughts on how artists feel thrived or?
Well, I'm coming back to spaces because that's my interest actually in real life. I think that we don't have a dedicated space to art in this town. That's a huge problem, and this is a county center, a county seat, and it's sort of astounding that there is no such space that's dedicated to art.
Is that detracting from how artists feel valued?
I
Or
think it
their
does,
ability
because
to
many
thrive?
times we have with friends told that, oh, it would be great to bring this exhibition here by some artist. But the next question was, so where are we gonna put this? There is no space where you can say, we could put this space right here, because there are no such space. There is not an exhibition space here. There is not a performance space. The spaces that we have are here in the city building for exhibitions, the theater, the Station Theater is theirs. We need to establish some sort of space so artists can feel, I can go there, I can exhibit there, I can perform there. This is a city that has an art space. And here, and this, okay, we talked about this from the beginning when we started this art commission, and it just got dropped. And the next is basically a dream. Help artists, and we talked about this too, but this also got dropped. Help artists to provide studio space for them. Champaign is providing all the studio spaces. Even people in Urbana, artists in Urbana, are going over to Champaign because that's where the spaces are. There are many old buildings that are abandoned, that are falling apart, could be fixed and provide studio space both for work and exhibition as well as dwelling for artists. I think artists would feel highly valued.
Okay, thank you. Jason, I don't know if you heard from you in this round.
As far as what made me think when I was reading those questions was this. I think she brings up good points, and I think those are ambitious points, but they are absolutely positive and something that should be really looked at. But a lot of it, I think, we have to keep in mind. There is a part of it is on the artist. Like you have to, as an artist, you do have to go out and look for opportunities and look for things. A lot of times, even myself have missed things because I wasn't looking hard. So I think the commission always should try to do better. But from my perspective as an artist, I mean, I can't think of anything where it would have been hard for me to take advantage of what the commission is doing. And so definitely keep doing what we're doing. But I think we are at a situation where we can add on and try to build on that.
Would anyone else like to comment on these, and then we're going to move into the action?
Oh, I can think of places in New York that have done that. On 42nd Street, where they've made artist communities out of older buildings, and there's an art nexus, the Williamsburg Arts Nexus in Brooklyn is a perfect space. Those kind of ideas.
We don't have a lot of time, so I think we want to. If this is a future focus for the commission, then let's do that. But let's make sure we're hitting on all the topics that we want to. So, were there any other aspects of the engagement question, Barbara, that you had felt strongly about, but you didn't get?
Thank you. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. So then I'm going to move to what should the role be taken. So that then leads to the next question.
Yeah, that looks.
Is should the commission, should the staff be looking if it's exhibition space or studio space? Should there be a focus of the commission and the public arts program to look at other cities and other models? Is that something that we'd like to see? Are there other aspects of engagement that we should be working on toward? Is it really just a promotional need? Is that the problem? What would working towards those goals look like, in your opinion? What would be the role of the commission? What would be the role of staff?
I think it would be interesting to look at other cities, like Barbara started to talk about how they, just continuing what I started to say, how they have managed to gain access to spaces. And I think we have to think a little bit bigger. I think we are thinking a little bit too small. I feel like we are in a small hole that we are not sticking our heads out of. We are thinking within the very limited financial resources we have, and I think we should be thinking very much bigger and seeking out money from much larger sources way beyond where we have been seeking so far. And I know this is a lot of work, but it's an idea that perhaps can be pursued.
Well, we did apply to several grants this past year, so we're waiting for the responses. And not to be pessimistic about it, but of course, as you know, the state is having some funding issues, and we haven't received our money from them yet. So
That's
I'm
good.
sure you understand it. I'm sorry, Ginny.
Well, I was gonna say, building on her idea, though, is getting somebody who owns a building, like she was talking about 40 North, you know, getting private support for space
Yeah,
is a possibility, too.
Sure.
that's true. And I've been trying to make use of the Civic Center, which is free for city purposes. So I think that's a huge asset to us, you know.
Absolutely.
Are there any other ways that we should be focusing on supporting artists in the coming year as a staff and commissions? Pat, what do you think? Barbara, do you want to add?
Write it, thank you.
We're talking about the commission's roles or staff. They can be similar. One of the notes I put down, and I assume is there a national conference for municipalities and cities that are engaged in similar activities?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I join some webinars, so I don't have to travel. But there's some of those.
Is there a national organization that
For
is-
municipalities working in the arts, I'm not sure. Usually
Where-
they're arts or.
Where would you go to, besides the web,
Mhm.
besides online, to try to find, I mean, I'm guessing there's not a magazine or,
So there is a magazine that I find really helpful called the Public Art Review. We do subscribe to that. And
That's
they give
good.
me great ideas. And I am a member of some listservs, so LAN, which is the local arts network. So other small cities usually who also have a public arts program, and if we have any technical questions, we ask each other on this
Right.
listserv.
I mean, anything that you could, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, I mean, not that we can't on our end, but
Yeah.
even if it was an intern or someone that, if more time was involved, then you could give to it, that would keep their eyes open for other activities that might dovetail into what we're doing.
Yeah. And thankfully we have Morgan. Morgan's gonna keep his eyes out.
Taking down.
There you go, Morgan.
Did you put that in your notes?
Yeah, Morgan has been helping a lot with research,
Yeah.
Good.
Really thankful to have
Good.
him.
That's
Great.
invaluable.
I think that's a good point, John, that you're
Yeah.
making share ideas of what other cities are doing.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I'm sure there's other organizations meeting just the way we are,
Yeah,
and
the PR.
probably it's more vital than ever as money is short. I mean, that's when you really got to put the proverbial thinking cap on, I guess, and look outside your immediate area and see if somebody else is already doing
Yeah.
something.
I
Not that we
agree.
have to copy them, but, if they've already invented that wheel, why not use it?
Yeah. And
So,
sorry, just one more
yeah,
thing.
go ahead.
And I think I need to do definitely more research on other cities too, but so far from what I know, I think we can be proud because our public arts program encompasses way more than most other cities, I think. Rarely do they have, a TV show and an
Right.
exhibition space at the city building and sculptures and murals and everything. I would say that most cities, even larger cities sometimes, only do sculptures and murals, or just 2 out of our
Right.
8 or 9 initiatives. So
Right.
I think we can applaud ourselves for that.
Well, and this sort of concludes the deep dive on the mission statement. And again, we'll send something out electronically that, as you think on what we discussed today, and add more to it, you'll have an opportunity to do that again prior to the next meeting. Please feel free to pass forward the sheets from this portion, or if you have more things to add, please do that. Then we wanted to jump into a look at who are we compared to the other institutions, and I think Pauline's comments were a good segue because the makeup of our role as a Public Arts Commission in this community might be different from what a Public Arts Commission does in another place. And a lot of that has to do with the other organizations that are here.
Right.
So this will be much more open format. We just want to take the last 10 minutes here and allow you to just talk about what you see as the Public Art League's, Public Art Commission's place.
And please have some food.
Yeah, no, we never took the thing off the veggies.
And we're running into dinner time. This better not splatter everywhere.
What was that?
Yeah, well, let's go through them really quick.
Good idea.
I know
So
I'm
40
all set for that one.
North, we just heard a great presentation from Kelly White. Everybody's familiar with their work. Anybody want to say anything about 40 North or how we're different?
Well, certainly our offering the grants is different from everyone. And that's a thing that makes us unique.
40 North's
Yeah,
community-wide,
that's-
they're not just focused on Urbana.
Yeah, that's the other big thing.
Public Art League,
They've sort of been partners with us. I mean, they've really helped us in terms of getting sculpture.
Yeah, and they're great at fundraising as well. So without their fundraising skills, I mean, we wouldn't have as many sculptures as we do in the community.
and they do a lot of private fundraising.
Yes, something
Yeah.
that
Yep.
I think is easier to do as a nonprofit. So we benefit from working with them.
Granted, I guess this could be the Center for the Performing Arts or the museum.
We have not had much of a relationship with them.
But they still play a very important role in our ecosystem.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
sure.
I mean, I know people who live in this community who say they wouldn't live here if Granite weren't here.
And that's why a lot of people
That's
move here.
interesting.
Yeah.
too. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, actually, they do reach out, because their public engagement officer calls me or sends me notes often, asking how to do things that happen in Urbana.
Oh, really?
They must be paying attention to what we're doing.
Are you in communications with SING? Yeah.
How'd you guess?
Yeah, they do a lot of engagement in the school district and whatnot. And sometimes we talk a little bit if we have questions for each other, but we haven't worked with them closely too much.
Independent Media Center. An exhibition space and performance space.
I think our relationship with them is very much growing, especially in the past few months. We
Yeah.
co-wrote a grant together, which, really got us, grant writing, all the stress brings you closer. And even our Artist at the Corridor right now downstairs, that's the IMC Artist in Residence. And whenever we have the grant cycle, we present a workshop at the IMC as well.
Local businesses, the Iron Post, Art Coop, Rose Bowl, Fine Machine,
Gallery,
Gallery.
cinema
Yeah.
gallery.
Cinema Gallery.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the roles that business play contributing to the arts community? They donate, they support these groups, they host artists.
I think a lot of businesses in downtown Urbana dedicate some of their space to local artists.
Yes.
Flying Machine, for example, they display local art, and I think that's helpful that they kind of care about the same things that we do.
Oh, and Amara Yoga.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pizza
Mariah, that's
M
good.
gives office performance venues and
Yep.
Yeah.
bulletin board space, even the co-op
Yep.
helps that way.
Yeah, that's right.
We
Common ground.
we have a gallery at Art Coop too.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess
That's true,
the-
I've been in it.
my studio, I guess, counts too. I mean, they gave me that, so.
Yeah, I give my studio space to artists who need performance venues to rehearse too.
Then what about the role of the University of Illinois? Its many tremendous arts programs.
Well, I think the U of I kind of is since it's Krannert a part of it, it gives this community a source of art, essentially. I mean, I think the museum is the second largest next to the Art Institute as far as artwork
The
goes.
holdings, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really unique thing to have in the middle of Illinois.
Even the library is, when you think about it, it's the
Oh,
largest
absolutely.
public
Yeah.
library in the United States.
Yeah.
Public holdings, has more holdings than
Wow.
anywhere else.
And I think the university gives us a lot in terms of sharing their expertise because we are a much smaller force, and when the grant season is coming, we need to have jurors from the university.
Mhm.
What about the Craft League? I thought this was an interesting one because it's kind of maybe borderline in terms of what we might be the focus of our public arts programs. Smaller crafts, less fine arts. What's the role of those organizations, crafters, makers, in relation to the Public Art Commission?
Well, I found two of them. Well, first of all, that they get space in Urbana, I think is nice. That they were over there at the Civic Center in the
Yes.
fall. That
Yes.
was really nice.
It's a great event.
The
I
Heartland
think
Makers?
the
Heartland Maker Fest?
The
Yeah,
Craft
the
League.
Craft League.
The art
Craft
fair.
show.
Craft League.
I
art
think
show.
that's the one day of the year when Civic Center is most full of people.
Yeah.
And they have a variety of art there, too.
Mhm.
Some of it craft, but it's quality craft. And then other art
Yeah,
too. So,
there's some art as well.
yeah, I found two of my art now subjects over there. I mean, I went looking for that, so I could see their work, and see who they were and talk to them and see if they were the type of people that I thought would be good for art now.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
great.
think the connection with the craft
Yeah.
league is very important.
I agree.
How about the school district?
Well, we've certainly done a lot of projects with school districts.
Right.
Yes.
benefit
A lot.
from
I'd say that's one of our closest
Yeah.
They
buddies.
benefit by our existence.
Right.
Does anybody want
Well,
something
even,
on this end
the
before you pass
sculpture.
it down?
You
Thank
want
you.
a plate?
Oh, I forgot a spoon.
Do you want
Thank
any pretzels or anything?
She maybe needs a plate too.
Yeah, I guess you need that.
Yeah, we do a lot with the school district. I think we're talking to them year-round about various initiatives.
Right.
Yeah, they give us some guidance when we've met with the teachers and say, what do you need, what works, what doesn't, how can we tailor our efforts to help?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that way,
Yeah.
it's a nice partnering.
Mhm.
And what about a countywide organization like Visit Champaign County, promoting our region to visitors?
I have to admit that I haven't talked to them that much. I mean, we all know each other, and if there's a big event coming up, such as the Art Expo, I would email them and ask if we can be put on their calendar. And I think it would be good maybe if we can sit down with them sometime, just talk about this.
Yeah, it might be good to mend some fences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Might be good to mention what?
Mend some fences.
You meant some fences. Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Well, I think they could be huge in promoting this organization and what the organization does and the artists, potentially.
Yeah.
They could be, but.
At the state level, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Not just
absolutely.
regionally.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's a way for us to potentially attract visitors to Urbana for our arts events too.
Mhm.
That's
Oh, yeah.
Exactly,
Definitely.
yeah.
And then what about event and festival presenters? UVA, Pygmalion, Folk and Roots Fest, and there's many, many others. And we've given grants to many, but they perform a different role than the commission. And
I think we've been very supportive, especially through the grants. Although, of course, the grant is limited, so we cannot fund every great project out there. Sadly, there have been some really strong applications that we had to not fund because there are so many even better ones. And I guess we have to just keep supporting them in other ways, maybe helping them distribute materials so that they don't feel that we don't support them at all.
And then Kudo, the Champaign-Urbana Design Organization. Did I get it right?
Hmm?
So this is a newer group. It's often largely a younger group, but it's really populated by designers, marketers, advertisers. They do board game design. They do things, makers kind of activities. How does our programs relate to design?
I don't think we relate to it. I don't see how we are relating to it. And to my mind, it would be great to relate better to design. I'm very interested in it. Somehow it almost seems like we, I don't know, we don't look at designers as part of the art, and they are all artists.
Yeah, sure.
And
There's another group of people you could interview.
you know,
Even think about how rich this community is with so many different
Oh,
art
yeah.
forms.
yeah,
You could be doing it your whole life.
Oh,
Probably
yeah.
never run out.
yeah. Both designers of objects, I would say, and designers of spaces. We are not dealing with them at all. They sort of, and we should be,
Yeah.
because spaces, we move in spaces, we are out there.
Right.
And our spaces are decorated and equipped with design work that these people create. So I think we should pay a little bit more attention to that. Reach out to them, I guess, somehow.
Are there others that we're missing, or that we didn't talk about? If you take a step beyond design, what about architecture? Are there other groups that?
I'm interested in architecture and, of course, and landscapes, and I think the Visit Champaign County could be an excellent venue for us to promote what we actually do have visual material in terms of architecture, in terms of sculpture in Urbana and on the university campus. Just as an example, very simple, we have probably one of the best Lincoln statues that have been made, traditional Lincoln statue, and by one of the best known American artists, Lorado Taft, which is about as hidden out of sight as it possibly can be. So if we had better relations, and of course his statues, sculptures are all over campus. There are at least 2 or 3 dozens of his works on campus.
Right.
There's absolutely nothing that directs people to these visual, very high quality and important, historically important visual pieces of artworks. Can we do something about directing people to these? Working with the Visit Champaign County and whatever it takes. We have a Royer district, Royer design buildings not only here, we have probably about 30 of his buildings in this town and Champaign-Urbana, tons of them in Champaign County. His buildings are all over the Midwest. I mean, these are touristic possibilities, but we pay zero attention to them, and these are artworks. They are there. We don't have to do anything, merely promote them.
Well, you know, we could perhaps emphasize a little bit more, take advantage of the work we did with all the past casts.
With what?
The past casts that the city created that are on the, aren't they still on the city website? Those little short vignettes, documentaries
yeah.
about the Royer district and the different
Oh.
homes and all that.
Yes.
I was amazed at one time when I talked to a city official who didn't even know they existed. And I thought, this is a great ambassador for the city, just to find out the history about our city. I was telling Ginny last week, I was watching one of the WILL programs about the downtown, the creation of the history of the city of Champaign, and how they were promoting it on television. And we've got some resources, but we need to utilize them differently, too. So we get them used at their best effect.
So based on that brief journey through many different organizations, what does that, or give you a sense of one, of who we are as a program and commission, but then the next question is sort of what can we be? You know, to some extent, if you look at the role of an arts commission in any community, it's going to be partially defined by the other institutions and organizations around it. So while the Krannert is a huge resource for us in terms of what it brings to our community, in some ways it limits us too, because we aren't going to try to be a premier fine arts recruitment sort of a function, because we would be competing, you know.
Right.
We don't want to do that. So I guess, did you have any thoughts in that regard to, when you look at the ecosystem of the arts in our community, and we just had this big conversation about what we want our mission to be, who we want to be engaging, how we want to be engaging, how we want to value artists. When we look around, what role could we be playing amongst the full cast of organizations? I mean, we already talked about how we partner with many of these organizations, so we're not truly doing it on our own. Is there a need they're not meeting?
Are we the only group out of these groups that field a program like the Arts Grants program?
Pat said that early on. That we're
Yeah.
The
only one
university
that gives-
has some funding opportunities. Sometimes artists apply to them, I think, but they're not, I don't think they're specifically for the arts.
Or they're within their own divisions.
I
I
assume
was
so.
just trying to think out of that group what makes our efforts unique.
I think the grants program, I agree with you, is something that really makes us unique.
I think we bring people together. We're sort of like the center of the wheel. And we bring, we do bring, when you think of the list of that, well, I look back over the last 8 years and the partnerships and the relationships that we've developed within the community and with other people, I think we're, in a sense, we are a facilitator of relationships
Yeah.
within the community.
I think
The
we're also
region.
unique because I guess we try to reach, as the mission says, all residents. And in doing so, our events are always free and open to the public. And you know, with Krannert, that cannot always be the case because you know they have
Oh, yeah.
internationally renowned artists there. So I think we maybe have really good opportunities to build access and to reach out to parts of the community that are not often reached.
You know, Krannert does a lot of development though. And some of
Yes.
those programs they build in are private partnerships,
Yes.
private sponsorships.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I don't know that we can accomplish that with our fundraising limitations, but
Mhm.
maybe some partnerships with different businesses or sponsors. If we had a goal, maybe something could be done. Depends on, we have to identify what it is.
Anything else that makes us unique?
The space we work in, the city we live in.
I think we're also unique because we are not specific to one type of art or just one type of event. And I often get phone calls from artists, tourists, whatever, and they just have the most random questions about local art, such as where should I put up my posters, or you know, where can I find a 3D printer, or who should I talk to about this or that. And I think we can be a resource for any of those topics and more.
I think that's it. So, thank you, first of all. You know, we've kind of pushed this conversation into a short amount of time. But please, if you have any other thoughts, please write them down. And we'll follow up with like a survey online that you can take some time, think about it, and then, again, the survey will have the opportunity to comment on all the specific programs. So hopefully, this maybe got everyone thinking about how each of our programs relates back to what the commission's idea of how we achieve and fulfill our mission through our work.
And I will send out this follow-up email maybe next week, early next week. Thank you so much for coming.
I don't know if we got an email
We have to do an
earlier
official-
today.
Do we have to do an official adjournment?
Okay, all right.
I so move.
Do I have a second? We're adjourned.